Meeting of the Board of Architectural Review to order. And since we have a long agenda, I would like to first call the Palazzolo and Guinchard applicants back to join us. Hello.
Hello. Hi, how are you?
Good to see you again.
You too.
Very much for leaving materials off at the village and the quick response to the engineer's comments and your detailed plans. Perhaps you'd like to start by taking the screen and showing us what you've changed since the last meeting.
Sure, and before we do that, we're joined on the call tonight. Spence Cass, our architect, is on the line, who you've all met before. And two new additions tonight is our landscape architecture team, Dale Schaefer and Eli Sands. So
welcome.
Dale will be presenting, and I'm not sure if Eli will be chiming in or not, but he's on the call as well.
I'll share the screen, and then Spence, would you like to kind of go through some of the changes first?
Sure. So the basic layout of what we're doing and the basic look of everything has remained the same. Basically, we have the original carriage house stables that we're pretty much restoring. The front of the carriage house will really remain the same. Just we're making the stable doors and the front door a little more friendly at this point, with a little more glass in it than what is there now. And what's there now is not really original. But we're not changing, other than replacing the windows, which are in bad shape now. The look is exactly the same. We are going to update the color scheme a little bit, but still within the same spirit of what's there with the Tudor boards and the stucco. The north side is also staying exactly the same as far as the fenestration and the look of that existing part of the building. And then on the south side, we are moving a few windows. The south side is the side that's really not in as good shape as the others, but we're still putting the same type of window there that's on everything else. So we're using a double hung window with divided lights that is consistent with what's there now. And the roof slate stays the same. The addition is, as for those that don't know, there is an addition on the building which was done in the 1950s or 60s that's in very bad shape, and it's not consistent with the spirit of Tuxedo Park. So that's being removed, and in its place, we're putting a 28-foot by 28-foot two-story addition with a living room on the first floor and a master bedroom on the second floor. And basically the building is on piers that are hidden behind lattice screens, and the lattice screen and some of the proposed stonework are consistent with other Bruce Price houses that were in the park before. And even the railing design, which we'll get to in a little bit, is also taken from another house in Tuxedo Park that Bruce Price did. The history of this stables is that it belonged to the property behind it, which was the original Van Buren house. The Van Buren house was a total shingle house and one of the first unique houses or cottages by Bruce Price within the park. But by 1907, it had been transformed by an architect named Chandler, who bought the house and took off all the shingle work and added the Tudor board and the stucco look, and also expanded the house quite significantly. So we've, on the addition, which is set back on two sides from the main house and not really seen very much from the street, we've brought back some of the spirit of the original Bruce Price house and the craft of that by having a mixture of some cut shingles, cedar shakes shingles, and we've also changed to more like picture windows, which are still have divided lights, but they're casement windows on the addition to just differentiate it from the front of the house, which remains restored. We have a deck that goes out the back of the addition on that first floor, extends the first floor. We also have a service stair that comes down on the north side from the kitchen to just take things to the rear yard. The space underneath the first floor is all unfinished and unconditioned space. There is nothing down there, and it's just going to be probably gravel behind the lattice screens at the slope that's the natural slope of the site. When Dale gets to it, I'll let him talk about the site layout and landscaping, but basically on the south side of the house, we have our driveway, which comes back to the rear of the house. It basically takes the cars off the street. We've removed the large apron, which is not conforming with current regulations in Tuxedo Park. So we've removed that large apron in front of the carriage house doors and replaced it with a small garden and a terrace that you can come out of a den that we're creating on the first floor. And that's landscaped quite nicely. So we're reducing the amount of frontage that the driveway is and just having the 14-foot that's allowable for the new driveway. We've also been cognizant of the neighbors. We're not really adding anything in that north yard, and in the south side where there's a house that's very close to the property line, we've tried to pull that driveway away as much as possible and also shield that house with plantings and trees so that we do not have any headlights or anything like that disrupting the house. And that was a request. That owner was concerned the last time, and we've tried to be really sensitive to that. So on the addition, the only thing that is stucco like the original house is just the chimney that's on the south side. So you can see that there. The rest is the shingles with like wood pilasters that are going to be painted the same color as the Tudor boards on the main house. The trim on the addition is a little thinner than it is on the main house, partly because we want to have as large windows as possible. Really, that rear addition is almost like a big lantern or an enclosed porch rather than a solid wall configuration, and that's why we tried to minimize the stucco on that as well.
Okay.
Okay, I can start talking about the landscape.
Excellent.
So the landscape took the idea of taking away that broad asphalt parking area and transforming it into a forecourt or courtyard for the house. And the approach we took is creating a courtyard that was contained by both a stone wall and a hedge, which is seen quite a bit around Tuxedo Park. And the idea is to keep that hedge kind of at a maximum height of 6 feet, so that it provides some screening for the owners when they're in the courtyard, but it doesn't diminish the exposure of the house to the road. But what it also does is create a lot more greening along Clubhouse Road. So, and within the courtyard, there's a central bluestone patio for seating, and then also a bluestone walk that leads from the road through a gate to the front door of the house. And the planting within that courtyard is a mix of ornamental shrubs, ground covers, and perennials that provide seasonal interest. And on either side of the courtyard are pink flowering dogwoods that symmetrically frame the house. And then there is planting along the driveway, along a pathway that leads from the parking of the driveway to the front door. And along the north and south property lines, before I go there, as far as the landscape lighting goes, all the landscape fixtures will be dark sky compliant and pretty minimal, really, in the way of path lights. And the screening along the north and south boundaries or property lines is really to help screen elements of this project from the neighbors' views. For example, in the south, to add a combination of evergreens and deciduous shrubs, and on the north to screen the driveway. And the parking area around the driveway is approximately about 6 feet below the neighbor to the south, and in elevation. And screening along the north is for screening that neighbor from any sort of utilities that might be on that side of the house.
Dale, I have a question if I can interrupt for a second.
Sure.
So there's a large, I think it was a sugar maple, but I can't remember, large maple.
Yes.
Is that on your property or on the neighbors? And did it leave to make way for the Norway spruce or?
Upon our last site inspection, we noticed that the Norway maple was in pretty bad decline.
Okay.
There's a lot of dying branches and damage from earlier storms and such. And also any kind of construction that was going to be
Right.
happening adjacent to it was going to force that tree to decline even further and faster. So it was a concern for both the neighbor and also for this project that tree could become a hazard. So what
That makes sense. And the Norway spruce that you're replacing it with will give so much more reliable cover, I would think.
Yeah, and also the
Great,
roots
yeah.
of the Norway spruce are very expansive and have a lot of surface area, so it would be very difficult to adequately screen that area as well.
With the maple, right?
Yep.
Thanks.
I have a question about the, I love all the species, a lot of the native species. That's fantastic. It should come together beautifully. The only potential problem that I see is the Pennisetum, the Hamlin dwarf fountain grass.
Mm-hmm.
That just to back up here, in Tuxedo Park, we've got this racetrack, and we had a garden escapee that became a monoculture there. It was miscanthus grass.
Mm-hmm.
Cost us thousands of dollars to remove. And the dwarf fountain grass, in some states, it is recognized as an invasive grass. Not in New York State, but it has that potential.
Yeah.
So that was the only one I have a problem with, and I was wondering if there's an alternative. I mean, for
And if
example,
I can just jump in, Christopher, I'm glad you brought it up for that reason. It was one of the few notes of what to me seems like a really striking and sensible landscaping plan that fell off. I think it's strange to put to deploy grasses in that way right in front of a hedge on a road.
Mm-hmm.
To me it diminishes the sort of cottage-like feeling that the hedge was going to give or gives. And what you can see just I guess south of here or upslope of this house at several doors, you see
Right.
a hedge where the privet hedge goes right up to the road, which feels quite a bit more traditional to my eye. But
Right, yeah, we saw that comment and, our thought was we wanted to have a bit of space between the road and the wall just for
Mhm.
this, so the wall doesn't get damaged. But the thought was that that could also be something that's much lower, like just even if lawn or ground cover, so that the wall is exposed further and still provides that space. As far as the pinacetum, Christopher, um, I understand your concern. In fact, it was also one of our thoughts was where that grass wrapped around along the driveway. If in fact we kept grass at that place, that a good substitution might be prairie drop seed or sporobolus,
Yeah.
which
Okay.
is a native here.
Right. Yeah. That sounds perfect. Thank you.
Excellent. Unless anyone wants to ask questions at this point, or the applicants have more that they want to demonstrate before we get into a further discussion of the engineering letter and the responses, we can move on to that.
Were we going to get, Spence, were we going to get a bit of a clearer view of some of the details, or were you done?
Sure,
with
there is a
everything, or-
sheet in there that has some close-ups of the deck fencing.
But it's very
Um,
helpful to see them in the course of a meeting because
The railing, yeah.
a lot is thrown at us. In the course
So,
of
yeah, if we go to page 18, there's some bigger drawings of pieces of the railing and so. There, yeah, so basically we have a railing that is a traditional newel posts with a handrail that goes into it. All these elements are painted, and we have balusters with some horizontal beginning of like a lattice work, which again, we had gotten off of some precedents. There was this W.A. Chandler house, which somebody said is now the Shaw's house or something in the park that Bruce Price had done, that had a full lattice, and we didn't want that in the railing because it seemed to obstruct maybe too much view. But it is still a very simple railing. And then in the steps that are on that north side, the railing kind of zigzags as it goes down. Each horizontal goes through and then drops down one. So it really has a nice rhythm to it. And
Looks
so
really
we
handsome.
thought this was a nice amount of detail for that railing, yet still open enough to allow view.
It looks very handsome. Spence, can you show us a broader section?
Yeah, if we go back to sheet 10. There you go. So that has the railing extent, both the stair
Oh,
and
great.
the other, and then there's just the square lattice that are in frame panels that are to that open space underneath the addition. Again, that would be painted, and that is extremely consistent with some other houses in the park that we looked at that were from the original cottage period in the 1880s.
My eye gives a nice level of detail without going over the top.
Right.
Yeah, we went through a lot of permutations where we had a real mixture of things, and we tried to simplify. If you go to the Cedar Shakes too, we have a fairly standard coursing, but then we have these little, I almost call them like a zipper, these little diamond shapes, which are also consistent with some of the houses in the park, and it is a fairly standard shingle style technique, just to kind of dress up that top portion. And then we use it on the chimney side as a little, almost, I call it like a zipper on each side of the chimney on that you'd see on page the next page.
Just for clarification, that detail there, the zipper effect looks great here, which is a little bit different from on page 18, where it's almost like a tooth.
Yes, yeah, that's kind of what it's like. I mean, page 18. Let's get.
Yeah. See, that looks to me less successful than what you know, what you were doing, the other one.
And is
Can
that
also-
because
I
of
can
the?
also- Hey, Spence,
the
I can also
amount of
add as
logo?
well. There's the Dutch Colonial that's also at the top of the clubhouse block that crosses with Tower Hill. I don't know the name of the house, but that also has a similar kind of styling with the teeth. That's our inspiration as well. And
Right, I
so
think the execution of the teeth on that house is just a little bit more successful than is it the case in the photograph we're looking at here.
Yeah, we'd be happy to look at that and, try and we will probably mock it up before we do the actual installation so that we can get the proper amount of texture and shadow and detail.
Yeah, it's a subtle thing. I mean, this looks like a rabid dog. Toothy.
Well,
Whereas
when people
the other one,
nice?
the other one you showed us, your sketch looked
Yes.
appropriate. Yeah.
is simple.
Yeah, that just looks like a charming little extra bit versus a heavy.
Well, because it's what you're drawing here is one layer, and what you showed in the inspiration is going all the way to town with 3 courses,
Yeah, part of that's just the graphic on the drawing, but you're absolutely right. I mean, I would love to get that extra amount of texture. And so we'll be glad to look at that and try and mimic that. And we're working with, it turns out the shingle companies are pretty fantastic in how they can create all this. So we're really looking to their expertise to help us achieve that. And we'll definitely show them the picture of that other house that you
But
mentioned.
usually when people start throwing in shingle style details, they're inevitably seduced by more. And usually the smartest course is to pull it back 1 or 2
Right.
layers, as the drawing indicates, whereas the example doesn't.
Okay.
Question for you, Spence. This, I'm sorry to ask this at a relatively late stage. I think it's very appealing, the flat roof. I'm just wondering about if there's a good southern exposure there. Is that correct?
Yes, south and west. Yep.
Okay, so you don't have to worry about too much snowfall. And is it raked some degrees, or?
Yes, it is. It actually goes side to side rather than front to back. So it has a slight little peak, and the cornice there actually is a slight little parapet. It is just a 1/4 inch per foot or whatever. So for all intents and purposes, flat. It is meant that there is a chance in the future. The attic of the main house is quite large, and there is a chance that they could add a dormer on the back of that and have access to a roof deck up there in the future. It's not something that's planned now, but that was part of the impetus for doing the flat roof or that shallow slope roof. And also it leaves us from having to match the beautiful shakes, the slate roof shakes.
Or to kind of intervene on the existing roof. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And are you sheathing it in copper or steel?
Yeah, so all the downspouts and gutters will be copper, matching the existing house. And most of the existing downspout locations are staying on the main house. And what we're doing, we're just having copper gutters on the 2 sides, and then they come down in the corners and around the chimney to go down below the deck level and collected down there. So
great.
So it's a very minimal amount of guttering, luckily, that we have to do, but all of that will be in copper, and we're staying very consistent. Most of the eaves and details on the main house are very flat now. They don't have a lot of molding or detail. They're kind of consistent with a stable service kind of building. And we're pretty much maintaining that in the scale and proportions and and not adding a lot of frilly molding or anything.
Mhm.
And then it'll be painted the same way as the Tudor boards and eaves of the main house.
Great.
Does anyone have anything else to add before we have the applicants provide their responses to the engineer's report? I think some of these have already been addressed and we know the variance has been received.
I have a question about the HVAC on the plan, but what is the how will that be hidden, or is that below grade, or what's the landscaping plan for that?
Dale, maybe you can address that.
Oh, sorry, there we go. Sorry, yeah, you've, sorry, I should have noticed that. Yeah, you've dealt with it. Take that question back. I retract my question.
Mhm. But coming back to, if I could, just in front of the hedge, I guess I think it would be much more appealing to have fairly architectural lines of the hedge and the streetscape, so that anything in front of it would be either stone or lawn, but not kind of softening with large plumes of grass. Whether it's not indigenous and invasive or not.
Right. No, I think we took the comment to heart and agreed and plan on that coming out along the face, along the street in front of the hedge.
I think it's a really successful use of the space. I mean, it's going to be, what a great place to sit, and it gives pedestrians privacy in both directions, homeowners and the pedestrians, and I think it's great.
And just bear in mind when you decide on what the alternative is between the road and the wall, the hedge, to replace the Pennisetum, we get quite a lot of snow, so there'll be a lot of snow plowed over that over the winter.
Right.
Just bear that in mind. I think you're from a northern climate as well, so
yeah,
no news.
This is John Ledwith. That there is a 5-foot setback requirement off the road. I don't see a dimension, but the wall would have to be set back 5 feet from the road.
right. Yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll within that 5-foot setback, we'll just have it as lawn.
Well, what a great presentation.
Right, much appreciated. Okay,
Thank you.
so I think we've addressed a number of Andy, a number of your questions, well, the homeowners have, but we can go through to make sure they are handled. I mean, I think that the treatment of the stucco is one we may want to have a discussion about.
Right.
Discussed the landscaping plan pretty thoroughly.
Yep. Yeah, and I saw that while you were going through things on your L100, I see that, I picked up the light fixtures on there. So that was comment number 6. So yeah, I think 1 and 2, 4, 5, and 6. Definitely we've dealt with the stucco, like you said, Sheila. We had comment number 3 was, that you should discuss repairing, replacing existing stucco as needed. I just
thought that it would be a concern of, well, it was of mine that that there may be some difficulty in, kind of matching up if it's just repairing certain sections. How do you get it to look the same?
So the front facade and the north facade really will not need much patching, because any of the windows we're doing are going to be right back in the same places, and the Tudor boards will cover the juncture between the window or be in between the juncture of the window and the stucco. So we don't see any real issue there. The south side, we are moving some window openings, but we're going to basically redo the stucco across that whole side facade to be sure it's consistent with the other ones. And then the rear, we really have very little disruption there as well, because the addition's covering a good almost half of that rear facade. So we don't really anticipate a lot of difficulty. And then we are doing a kind of updated paint scheme for the house that will clean all that up. And so I don't think we're going to really have many patches that are really going to be an issue in the finished house.
Okay.
Would you mind just refreshing our memory on the paint scheme? Can we just?
Yes. Yeah. So that's on page 17. So currently the house, and you can see it in some of the photos, I guess we have on page 21. So there is the yellow beige stucco right now is a little more intense than what we're proposing, and the Tudor boards are very dark brown right now. We've looked around the park at a number of houses, and John Ledwith has helped us kind of look at some of those homes and talk them as well. And we're just trying to lighten up the scheme a little. So the sailcloth is a little less yellow stucco color. And then we've taken a little bit of the brown out of the Tudor board. It's still a medium to dark color, but has a little more gray in it. We've used a warm gray rather than a cold gray, so it has a little bit of the brown or red in it rather than a bluish gray or a cold gray. So we just think it's going to look a little brighter, a little fresher than the existing there. And it is a consistent scheme with some other houses in the park. We want to do some big samples and so that we can actually see it in different conditions, see it in the sunlight and see it on a cloudy day. We rejected a scheme that was a lot colder gray and a much whiter stucco because we felt that would look a little too cold on winter days and on cloudy days. So
this looks very handsome.
So I think one of my questions for you guys was the roof edge. Is that going to be copper as well to match the gutter?
yeah, yes. So yes.
Okay. All right. I had one concern about the basically trapping water in the areas where you've got the slope coming down. In the driveway, you've got a curb all the way around it. I know it's not specifically a bar concern, but just that you're probably going to need to add some drainage to capture the water that you're kind of confining against the foundation with the new driveway. And
it certainly is a concern we have. We've now, once we go through this process, we had a civil engineer do the initial study and the initial plans. Now he's going to take these final landscape plans and just refine those aspects. So drainage is always something we're very concerned about. And so we will be addressing that in the last go round with the civil engineer and his final plan.
All right. And then I think, but maybe my, one of the last things that I think you've dealt with pretty much everything here. You will need a handrail coming off those from the courtyard in the stairs down.
Yeah, I believe Dale has actually picked something for that.
Yes, that's
Okay.
being added, and there's a, I think there is
There is a picture of it.
a picture of it that was added with the comment notes.
Okay.
These
Yeah, that
are-
was in the response, yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right, great. That takes care of my concerns, I think. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any other questions or comments?
Are you taking comments from the public or just the board?
Yes, if we have neighbors that are here to discuss it, this would be the time.
Neighbor Jacob Matthews, first want to say beautiful plan. Really, really nice. I just have one more technical question. The driveway looks really great. And we appreciate, it looks like maybe it's been sort of pushed as best as possible toward their home. I just have a question, and I don't know if I'm framing this right. Is there a defined distance from the corners, the two corners of the sort of driveway turnaround to our property? Is there an actual defined distance so that it's known what that is? Thank you. And good luck with it. It's great.
I know we had that at one time. I don't know if that's in the chart that we have on page 2.
Sorry, is the question specific
Distance
to
her property.
to the turnabout, or is it the driveway?
The distance of the driveway from the property line on that south side, I guess.
Yeah, that corner of the parking
Actually-
area.
Actually, the corner of the turnabout, as Claude was referencing, I think. Well,
Oh,
I
okay,
suppose
the
it would be
turnaround.
helpful to know. I suppose it would be helpful to know what it is from the driveway to the property line at one point, and then the back corner, the
Right.
two corners on the south side at the turnaround. I'm looking at where you have L200. I just,
Yeah.
So
I
I
guess
believe,
you could, yeah.
so I believe the driveway is 14 feet wide. So, I mean, I can, eyeball it here, but it looks like it's over 14 feet from the corner, which I believe I forgot what the distance is at the top of my head, but
I think it's like
10 feet is
from
the
property.
I
closest.
think it was 10 feet from the property line.
So we're at least, we're probably around 14 or more feet away.
Greater than
Jacob.
14.
Yeah, I would say it's
definitely
probably closer to 18 on the southwest corner.
Understood.
It'd be a good idea to add that to the drawings
Yeah, good
for
point.
clarification.
Does anyone else have any questions? Okay. With that, is the board in a position to vote at this time? Thoughts?
Yes.
Information we need? I feel that we do, subject to some changes to the plans to reflect the changes today, maybe seeing paint samples. Christopher, and maybe what's going to be done finally with that area in front of the hedge.
Yeah, I think it seems ready to me.
Yeah, I love the what you're doing, and I love the fact you're keeping the stucco as the original stucco in the front, so the house keeps a little bit of the patina, so that it looks like a beautifully restored old house with love and attention, as opposed to brand spanking new. So that's great.
Agreed.
Agreed. This was well researched and well thought out.
Agreed.
With that, does someone want to make a motion?
Like to make a motion to approve the Palazzola Ginchard property, section 107, block 1, lot 33 at 66 Clubhouse Road with the plans number L001, L200, A200, A201, A202, A203, L100, L300, L502, L501, L500 again. With the landscaping plan minus the pennisetum, and the paint was agreed. It was the sailcloth 0C142. Is that correct? And 1476 for the trim. The red cedar shingle, squirrel tail again, and the front door, the cognac mahogany, and squirrel tail for the rest of the facing doors. With anything else to be added to that?
Yes, Christopher, if you could just refer to the last revised date on the plans that you read so we know which set we're dealing with.
And the last revised date was
Or if the architect might know that, they can help us out.
I can see 2021. I can't see. The only dates that I see are 12.
Our plans are dated today's date, May 6th. So all the L100 plans are May, landscape plans are L56.
That makes it easier.
But some of the other ones are 3/18/2021. Like the.
Yeah, some of them are that as well. So yeah, some of the architectural drawings are more, still say 3/18, and then the landscape drawings all say today's date.
Were there any conditions on the proposal?
Well, I think there were some adjustments that we agreed today, like putting in the dimensions of the driveway and back and. is there anything
Yeah.
else?
I think we can approve. I can
Right,
just-
removal of the grass.
We got that.
Yep.
And
Anything
then
missing?
we're gonna add more texture and dimension to the shingles. And we're gonna look at the house that was noted in the discussion tonight to try and make that have more presence, more shadow, and more texture.
Christopher, don't you think that we could probably just put this date on and then make it sample pending sample approval?
Yeah, so we'll put today's date, submitted May the 6th, 2021, subject to approval of this sample of the trim. Any other samples that we need to see, or are we confident?
Just, yeah, the shingle detailing.
The shingle trim sample.
Right, I mean, if we're sticking with this color, then I think we have what we need.
Yeah.
I second your motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, you have an
I like it.
approval.
Very
That's
exciting.
very
Thank
exciting.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. You can unsave sharing your screen and we can move on. Okay.
Sheila, before you call the next
Yes.
application, I just want to let you know that I have Brian Nugent will be coming in for me in a few minutes, so we'll be handing off.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Stephen. Have a good evening.
I'm here, Steve, so whenever you want to head out.
Very good. Thank you very much, Brian.
got
Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank
night.
you. Welcome, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Our next applicants, welcome back, O'Neill and Gordon.
Thank you.
I like the dog.
That's Gio Ponte, the Pekingese.
Do you want to update us, take the screen and update us on what you've changed since your last visit?
Yeah, I will do that. I'm Brian Natinsky, the architect for the project. So I will take over the screen. Can you see my drawings?
Yes.
We can.
Okay, great. So just a quick recap. The project is a renovation of an existing house. No additions, but modifying the exterior facade and fenestration, etc. We are enlarging an existing garage in the same location. We're adding a proposed greenhouse. And we're replacing existing piers at the entrance from Westlake Road with new piers and gates at both entrances on the curved drive. The first change that you'll see on the site plan, in response to the comments from our last presentation, is regarding the garage. So what we did is we reoriented the garage so it's no longer then facing Westlake Road, so that the entrance to the garage is the same as the existing garage facing the house. And so the short end of the garage is now on Westlake Road. So I'm going to go down and start with the changes we made to the house. So one of the first comments that we received was the type of windows we were using. So we had originally proposed steel windows at the front elevation, and then changing the windows as you go around the house to aluminum, although keeping as close to the profiles of the steel as possible, which is possible. But what we're proposing now is to use a steel frame window all the way around for all the new windows on the house. And the front facade is pretty much as it is, although we've made one change which did not make it into our submittal set. This is something that we had decided on in the last couple of days that I want to present now and get your feedback. And that has to do with to the north side of the house. If you look at the top drawing, there is an existing fireplace and chimney. And what we're proposing is removing that. So you can see, excuse me. So you can see down below at the new elevation, that chimney and the chimney breast has been removed. So going around the house to the other elevation. So this is the east elevation, which faces the lake. And what we responding to the comments about the previous fenestration, we've taken another look and simplified the windows, reducing the number of mullions and window lights that are up at the top of those first floor windows. And also to break out that facade at the center of the house, the main volume, instead of having those windows turn the corner, we stop them before the corner so that they're sitting, their windows framed by the facade instead of wrapping around the sides. And you can also see on the right side, which is at the north, the removal of that chimney and how that affects the volume of the house. To the south, which is the secondary entrance to the house, which is on the side of where the garage is. And again, it's basically the same except for just reworking the fenestration and simplifying it, reducing the number of windows and lights, and getting closer to what's existing, which you can see up at the top. so this is the north side, and you can get there's some photographs of what that existing chimney looks like that we're proposing on removing. And then down below is the new elevation with just 2 windows. And we're going to use the same, because that room wraps to the front, it's one volume. We're going to use that same fenestration and the muntins and the divisions in the windows that we're using at the front. So for the garage, so what we've done is we've not only reoriented towards the house, so the cars and you enter into the garage facing the house instead of the street, but we reduced the size of the garage as a whole. So instead of doubling the size from 24 feet, which is the current width, to 48 feet, it's going from 24 feet to 39 feet. So it'll give an additional parking spot. And we made the doors wide enough because Adam and Christina may use that to put a pontoon boat and other things that may be larger than what would be accommodated by a typical garage door. But we also, instead of having one door that is for 2 cars, we reduce the size overall of the other 2 doors to match the scale of the existing and reflect more the feel of the existing garage. At the addition of the greenhouse, so the comments that we received last time was the aluminum framing and objections to that. So what we're proposing is cladding all the framing of the garage with zinc, a product that's Rhine zinc, and that would be used to cap all of the exterior frame. And just there's a small image of it, but just to give you a better idea of what that
The
looks
house
like.
at the very end of Westlake,
I'm
at
sorry.
the end of Mosquito Lake, it's on the lake.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
down the south side?
Yes,
On the west side, the south.
west side.
End.
All right.
Hmm?
All right.
You know what I'm talking about?
No, but that's okay.
Well, there's only one house that's on the lake. If you're going south on Westlake Road towards the golf course, before you get to East Lake and Westlake meeting, on the lake side, there's only the one house.
It's a little house, right?
No, it's relatively.
I'll figure it out.
I can show you a photo of the house to give you.
Yeah.
So this is the existing house.
Wow, a lot of lighting.
Yes. So as you're coming from through the south gate and you veer towards the left on Westlake Road, it's the first house on the lake on the right side.
Was it the one that had a blue tarp on it for a while?
Yeah, it's a swamp.
A blue tarp? Oh, I didn't know that.
Did they hear me?
Yes, there was a fire where I think where you're removing the chimney place, there was a fire and there's a blue tarp over it a few years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
So the material that we're proposing that will clad the exterior framing it's a zinc material that it's already pre-patinaed, so it already has gone a little bit gray, darker gray, which is what happens with zinc as it ages. But so this will be what's on the outside of all those individual members that are framing that house, the greenhouse.
What was the name of the product again?
The material is Rhine zinc. It's I'll show you. It's actually quite a beautiful.
It looks lovely.
Yeah.
I have a hard time getting a feel for it. Is there any way you can get a sample?
Just the garage.
Yeah, definitely. I have some samples that I can send. I guess I'll send to John.
Thank you. That would help.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the last change we made is there were comments about the scale of the original gate and piers that we presented. So we just scaled everything down. So the piers were originally 8 feet. And we've reduced that to 6'8". And we reduced the width of those piers from 3'6" to 2'6". So just bringing everything down to a scale that I think you may be more comfortable with at this for the house and the relation to the road and all of that.
Well, we do appreciate that you have been trying to address our concerns from the first meeting and providing us some options here. So just trying to get a feel for them now. I know you have a number of variances to get, but I'm glad you're following up with us so that we can evolve with you in the project together.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we want to keep things moving and be responsive to all your concerns. Okay. So those are the changes that we're proposing from our original design.
I have a question, Brian.
Sure.
Can we look at the elevation on the garden front, on the lakefront?
Yes.
So I see that you made that change that you mentioned in the center core of the building at the very edges, bringing more masonry and stucco, right?
Right.
Rather than having the windows wrap around, right?
Yes.
I'm just curious about the decision not to do that
on the other two.
Right.
The feeling, in a way, it was. First of all, it's about those views too, because when you're close to the lake, it's opening up those corners for the long views along the lake. But it's also, I think, helping to distinguish the main volume of the house to these smaller elements and treating them a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I might just add one more point, which is that if you look at the existing condition of the house as it is currently, those windows do fall to the ground. And so what we're trying to do is present a more refined version of what's there.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, could you, sorry to interrupt, Rob, but would it be possible to just show us the what was proposed last meeting?
Of course.
Thank you.
Technology, huh?
So you can hear this is our original proposal from the last meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see we had all those upper lights at the first floor. We had subdivided additionally, and that the idea was to match the scale of the windows at the front. The steel windows at the front. So each of those center mullions were removed, so those become one piece. And the wrapping of the windows, at that main volume, you can see reflects what's happening at the other ends of the building. So we pulled that back at the center of the
Right. I think that was a good note and a good solution. I'm just curious about here, since we're looking at the earlier iteration, and this is still true of the wings, if not the main body of the house. What is the material on the edge that's to the right of the window here? Is that meant to be stucco or?
No. So the edge of the window at the corner will be wrapped. It'll be wrapped in the same material as the window frames. That'll be steel.
Steel.
Yeah.
Okay, so it reads as white, but it will not. I see.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry.
Okay. Well, that's helpful to know.
So, within the window openings.
Mm-hmm.
So the frames of the windows obviously are steel, and those divisions that are the structure between each of those pieces of glass and windows is also steel framing.
Got it. Can you go back to the new iteration, the new elevation?
Yes.
Right, so what you have is there is stucco in the center core of the house on the edges, and on the edges of the extensions, the wings, it is steel.
Yes. So
Okay.
I think that, so the differentiation will be much clearer than I'm showing in my drawing as far as the color and tone of what's happening at those corners.
Great. Can we take a look
I
at
can
the-
enunciate what I'm feeling about this. I'm not, everything else, I'm very delighted. I love the project, and we've moved forward. I'm still a little bit uncomfortable with these, with this lake facing, the size of the windows. And I don't know, I can't quite put my finger on it, but
Well, may I interject, Christopher?
please do.
I wonder, Brian, if it, and Adam, if it would, I think what's happening is it's sort of a ghost of the front of the house. And obviously trying to take advantage of the views. So would it be helpful to take the center section, for example, and mullion that in steel in this same fashion as the front, so that there's a dialogue between the front and the back? So I think it's reading a little austere.
It feels a little bland to me.
Yeah, I mean, look, I do appreciate it and I understand it. I think that there's a dance, and I don't know that it's possible to totally get it right, but I do believe at some point we do have some pre-existing non-conforming advantages, and we do want to take advantage of the lake views. And so we're trying to relate the materials, and we're wrapping it around 3 of the 4 facades, but while still protecting some of the views that we have that are existing in the house.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my main comment is, just following up on Adam, is what's really makes this house special and makes it really spectacular is the proximity to the lake and being in those rooms. And it just, it seems like that to subdivide the windows more, it hurts. And we're trying to avoid it. It's just, you feel so much part of the lake and the site. It's really stunning. So that's kind of, steering us towards keeping it as close to the existing house and those big windows that they have on the back, and trying to not break it down too much.
I understand.
Yeah, we tried to listen attentively to you. And I think, for example, if you look at the living room elevation, we removed a sort of asymmetrical chimney and we introduced the front steel windows because we wanted the house to feel more compatible, but also we're worried that with the greenhouse there that people could look over, and we wanted to make sure that the view was comfortable and it was relatable to the front facade of the house.
Very successful. Yeah, very successful.
Speaking of which, can we go back to the front facade? The elevation?
Sure.
Looks a lot better than it does when you look at it, when you take a picture of it.
Yeah, I mean, it was more a process of editing, taking off all these.
Of windows, huh?
Big.
This one,
I know.
then that one, then this one. But the levels of the house are weird.
One thing that I noticed, I think in the garage, Brian, there's a small relief, like it's a sort of a miniature string course on the garage that I think is in both the original and in the revised.
Yes.
And yet there's also one right now on the house itself And there's a great big expanse between the bottom of the second floor window and the top of the first floor window.
Got rid of that fireplace.
And the string course has been removed.
Well, that string course now is a gutter.
Okay.
So what's happening, I'm gonna zoom in on the photo so you can see. So there's actually downspouts
okay.
between each of those windows because of the dormers, and they all feed into that gutter across.
Are you at all worried about I know that you've changed the fenestration, so it isn't the same as what I'm looking at now.
Yes.
But even in looking at your new elevation, there's a yawning expanse between the bottom of one window and the top of the other.
I mean, what?
And I was just wondering if that isn't something that you wanted.
Well, a lot.
No, I mean, I think that the house is not large by Tuxedo Park standards, and it gives some breathing room without trying to do too much. I think, apropos of the last applicant, I think that it's very easy to come in and over-exercise a facade or an elevation, but I think the simplicity allows everything to breathe and to really experience the steel windows and the perspective and give the house some room. And that's why we also trimmed off all of those, those silly dormers, and we're going to have a simpler roof line, because this is really a very typical proportion.
That was a very good contribution.
Yeah, I mean, and
by omission.
The tricky, I think one of the tricky things about this kind of review is seeing the exterior divorced completely from what's happening inside. Not that the facade shouldn't be taken as a thing in itself, but when we were looking at the design for the house, I mean, we looked at a lot of, and I think it was part of what was the initial, it's hard to say, but what I'm guessing may have been part of the initial inspiration for the house was a lot of kind of a French Belgian farmhouse. The way that the fenestration is, and the roof and the materials. So we looked a lot at that when we were looking at redesigning how the windows are placed into the into the front facade. And so a lot of the scale of the windows and the spacing between them, I think, reflects that what we had looked at and what we felt was part of kind of the feel of at least what we wanted the house, or to think that the house had started out as or wanted to be.
Yeah, sort of Axel Vervoort's poor cousin.
Got it, Adam.
Poor but cultured, I hope. Yeah.
Taking on the garage
itself.
itself.
Very helpful decision.
Want to look at the garage?
Yeah.
Okay.
My only last comment is, since you've cleaned up the roof lines of the main house, do you need the dormers on the garage?
We actually, in our last iteration, we had removed all of them except for the ones that were facing the lake.
Mm-hmm.
And I can show you that. But
and the reason for that is the garage actually has an upper story for storage. So one could imagine coming in there and at least having these sort of peekaboo views from the lake, but removing any kind of visual distraction from the street.
Yeah. And so the one elevation that's facing the street, which is at the bottom left, is actually where we kept that. Well, we removed that dormer to simplify it on the street. But we did want to maintain some natural light into that upper space and those views.
Got it.
Does anyone have anything else, or there's still a number of, but we can't take any further action today, but I hope we've given you some guidance to.
I don't really know that I feel like I have guidance. What do we need to do to get to a vote and an approval?
Well, I think we want to see the materials for the greenhouse and take a look at those. Does anyone else have anything in particular based on what we hear now?
I mean, can we have an approval subject to the approval of the greenhouse material if that's the only leading edge?
I still have some concern about the style of the greenhouse, but I think I would really need to see the material first before I
Yeah,
weigh in on that.
I think we would like to think a little bit about it and see the materials before we gave that approval. I mean, you have a number of variances that you're going for, and it won't be holding you up.
Can we have a look at the greenhouse? Because I wasn't sure that I'd seen enough to even determine.
Yeah, it's kind of yeah. It's
What is the concern about the style?
It has at least to me, it has a very modern look to it, and it's partially going to be visible from the lake, and that's a bit of concern.
I share that.
See, the interesting thing, what I would love to see is as a drawing, including the together the greenhouse and the house. I think, I mean, because I'm very much loving the modern aspect of it, of the glass house, and that's what I'm sure we'll all be calling this house, the glass house, because of the greenhouse and the big windows. I think my reservations about the size of the windows of the house would probably go seeing them next to the greenhouse, next to so that it would have this consistent modern sensibility, and it would pull it together, which obviously isn't everybody's cup of tea, but at least on the other side, which is more visible, because on the street side, because it's much more appealing to the majority of people. But the lake side, yes, it's facing the lake, but at least it isn't a part of the lake that is very much trafficked, with very much discouraging people from going to that part of the lake because of the meal-file. So my question, my desire would be to see a drawing with it all together, if it's a view from the lake.
Yeah, I'm just at the upper drawing, I'm just kind of hinting at the house, the relationship to it. But
I have to say, I'm glad, Christopher, that you brought that up. I think that the relationship between the greenhouse and the house is incredibly successful. I do see the point that it looks modern, but then again, greenhouses going back to 1850 have always been utilitarian structures with a greater or lesser amount of ornament. And I think particularly given the kind of workout that's being given to the house here, largely one of omission, of shaving things down, it makes great sense to me that this adopts the most utilitarian sort of honed, carved sort of treatment of a greenhouse, which is a machine for growing things. Anyway, I think it's very handsome. I think the modern aspects of it, to the extent that there are any, are very handsome. I love the relationship of the stone masonry and the sort of glass skin and steel skeleton, for what that's worth.
just a comment about the materiality. And one thing that we did, which is in addition to the house and also to the new gates, is we brought in, local field stone, looking at the walls of a lot of the houses, as you go around the lake, and using that stone for the, this wall, which is on the street for the greenhouse, but also bringing it into the base. If you look at the bottom, all the way to the front facade, replacing just stucco and a strip of wood, and bringing that same field stone all the way around the house.
Well, it's a much better way of mediating between the lawn and the garden and the ground and the building with that stone.
Is that same detail, Brian, is that same detail carried through to the greenhouse?
Yes, that stone, the materiality and the treatment of it is going to be the same material and, of that whole long wall of the greenhouse.
But it doesn't wrap the actual.
No, it doesn't. It does not wrap. The glass of the greenhouse
goes to the ground,
comes all the way down to just a very low base. Which could be, the base could be, on the exterior could be clad or be made of that same fieldstone, maybe a nice way to tie it together.
I think that would be really successful and
I
nice.
thought that's what you were saying, Brian.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just this very low base, right, on the
Yeah.
raised side. And also, if you look at the plan, where the plan and the whole floor and an extension of the greenhouse that's open, towards the left, towards the north side, is very large pieces of that same stone for the floor.
On your elevation drawings for the greenhouse, on the road side, you show the slope and the stone wall. And on the opposite side, there's no slope. Is there going to be a retaining wall at any point, or should there be a slope on the right side of your greenhouse elevation east?
So this on the facade of the street where I'm showing that kind of hill and that slope. So that's an existing feature.
Right.
But it's actually, this is cut, this section is cut a little bit away from the wall. So showing that, as you're driving by on the street, a lot of that wall will not be visible, but as it approaches the actual wall, it slopes down maybe another foot and a half. So,
but you do show on your site plan,
yeah,
the grade. There's no the site plan on A002 indicates topography going up on both sides.
Yeah, let me,
So that the east side should also show a slope, unless you're proposing to alter the topography there.
You're right. As you get to the end of that terrace,
Right.
that kind of open spot, it should be shown to be sloping down further
On the right side.
on the
of
right
the
side. Yeah,
East elevation, right.
yeah. That
And
should
then
be,
I know Christopher was asking for, Christopher Gow, to see these two, the house and the greenhouse together. What might also be beneficial is to see existing and proposed planting as well. Because from the aerial view, it looks like you've got a lot of trees and plants in the area where the greenhouse is proposed. Yet we don't see any landscaping. So I think at some point that would be extremely helpful too, to know what's being removed and what is going to, whether things are going to be replaced or added. I'm sure it's going to be low plantings, but then anyway, I think that would be helpful.
okay. Yeah, they're especially just along the road. There are quite a few trees and low growth, and yeah. So that I will add that to the plan.
If you're gonna, really make this an effective greenhouse, you want to get a lot of sun into it, and to the south of that, it looks like there's a good number of, well, at least I'm using that, your cover sheet as a guide as to, how much trees and plants are in that area. So just a comment.
There are some, it's grass from the house down to the lake, but there are some large trees there. So I will put that onto the site plan and make it much clearer.
That will be helpful. Thank you.
You've got to go to, yeah,
One more comment.
you've got time. to do
So
that.
just so I understand, so you'd like to see the house in relationship to the greenhouse. You'd like to see the elevations defined, as well as existing and proposed plantings. And the back of the house is still open. Is that kind of the scope of what we're looking at? Are there other open issues that we need to think about?
Yeah, that's about it. The relationship between the greenhouse and the house is very important. Maybe
yes,
a larger vision as well, including the garage. So there's the whole ensemble together. So as if from the lake view, that would be very important, just to get the sensibility, because I think the sensibility between the house and the greenhouse is going to, I think, is going to be very successful and very exciting. The garage, you know, I am a modernist, but the garage, I kind of like the sort of frumpiness of the garage. It's a little bit separate. And I prefer the dormer window be kept, because it does look more like a Dovecut or a Folly as opposed to a commercial garage.
Good. Let's keep it. That's easy.
That's my my opinion. Even though it's enough removed from this modern story so that's my concern.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else?
No, thank you for addressing all the things we discussed last meeting. I mean, it's really appreciate it.
No, thank you. I think the project benefited from everyone's input last time, and Brian and I and my wife Christina are really grateful. So thank you.
Cool.
See you again. Thank you very much.
Righto. Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you could remove take the screen. Okay, the Farmary application.
Yes, so this is, can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is actually the Francis Farmery residence. I'm Jasmine Francis. I co-own this with my husband. My husband is an architect, and so he usually would be doing these sorts of meetings. I am the surgeon of the family, so please bear with me. I would like to share the screen if I could be given permission to do so.
That would be terrific.
All right, can you see this okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
So here is a plan which demonstrates more than what we wanted to address and focus on in tonight's meeting. What this shows is our bigger picture future plan, which includes the potential for a pool and the potential for a tennis court. And to keep with the rules for that, we would need to have a fence which would encompass the pool area. And you had previously, this board had previously helped us with our pergola, which we are very happy about. What we wanted to discuss today was the request for a variance of a fence, which we have, which I've highlighted here in the yellow dotted line. So this is a fence which is existing. So we have put it up, and here is a photograph of the fence. So just to go back to the original plan here, this will eventually become part of the fence that will encompass the pool area. Our understanding about putting a fence up in Tuxedo is that it would need to be less than 6 feet in height and at least 2 feet from the property line. The one that I'm showing you here, can you see my cursor?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a top part, and then there is a drop in our land which goes down about 4 feet, and then there's a continuation of the fence. I wanted to start by talking about this upper portion, which measures approximately 64 feet by 4 feet. And then this other part of the fence, which I'm highlighting here, which maybe you can see better here. This portion of the fence is 8 foot by 8 foot. And this is the portion that we would like to request a variance for, because we know that it's 2 feet above what is stipulated. I can go into details of why we would like to do this. Is this a good time for me to explain that?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I also ask, does the 8 feet include the gap at the bottom of the fence, or is it the fence itself 8 feet and then it's higher because of a gap at the bottom of it?
Yeah, so there is a decline as you go towards the road. So as it hits this portion of the land there, it is 8 feet. But in order to make it level, the portion of the fence itself is 8 foot in its width, but there is a small gap here which allows the fence to be straight because of the decline.
10 feet, as I understood, in some places.
So the reason for us wanting to have a fence of these proportions is this is 2 feet from the property line. It does follow the curvature of the property line, which is actually not a curve at all. It's simply a straight line. It's not very natural. It is demarcated by humans. And we wanted to at least impart some naturality to it. And in doing so, we wanted to have a straight line in the top of the fence that extended from the stone wall all the way out to this Japanese maple. And so instead of having this lower portion as a 6 foot high fence, which would disrupt the continuous top line, we would like to request to have a 8 foot fence.
And so John Ledwith,
Yes.
could you explain, I mean, it's not our position to give you a variance, that would be the BZA. I think you're coming here to see whether we agree with the aesthetics of the fence, which was not brought to our attention when we did the pergola, but is here now. And I understand you're trying to explain your reasoning for it. But John, can you explain where we are? And there's also a deed restriction on this property, which I mean, the one thing that I want to try to do is get the whole picture as you're trying to provide us, because I feel like we had the pergola initially and we had no vision, or your vision, of a tennis court and a pool and a fence. And I don't want to feel that as we go along here, we're giving you piecemeal comments back, so you feel like you're never done with us. So John, can you explain the whole picture here with the deed restriction and where we are with the fencing? And
well, to start with the fencing required a building permit before it was erected, and obviously it was constructed without a building permit. So it does require the submittal of a permit, an application. It does require BAR approval, and the 8 foot or 8 foot plus section certainly requires a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals. There's currently a violation because of the installation of the fence without a permit. And obviously they will need a variance if the BAR agrees to the way in which it was installed. So that's regarding the fence. Regarding the deed restriction, there is something in the deed that requires the property owner to maintain the driveway to the north of the house, so traffic from both this parcel and the neighboring parcel can pass. And I will circulate that to the BAR this week. I think it's also important that we have a survey or have a site plan that just reflects what they're doing. If they're not doing a tennis court, that's fine. But if they are, obviously this is a good way to start the conversation.
right, because it's, you want to give us the context, but we need to appreciate the whole project, which I think you're trying to share with us now.
And John, has there been any correspondence with neighbors at all, or?
No, there's been no correspondence with the neighbors.
So one of the things that we did discuss with our neighbors is whether they would allow us to purchase from them this upper section that I'm highlighting here, which would allow for us to preserve the natural curve of the upper terrace. But they were not agreeable to that idea. We discussed the fence with them, and they were in agreement, a verbal agreement with the fence.
And Jasmine, is the idea now that you, both properties use the, I guess it's the southern part of the driveway, and that the north part of the driveway will now be occupied by a tennis court?
Yeah, so I'm hesitant to go into much detail about this because I view this as sort of the far reaches of our most hopeful dreams.
Oh, I see.
I would say that we are, if at all, 3-4 years out from this. But I think the reason why we wanted to show it is because it gives context for why we wanted to have a 4-foot fence. I can go into more details if the board would like to hear about why we sort of expedited regretfully at the remiss of asking for approval for this upper part. And that's because we really wanted to have not only a physical barrier, but a visual barrier from the neighboring property.
Right.
Jasmine, is there another photograph showing it from the other side?
I don't have that, no.
Okay.
Well, certainly understand, you're wanting to have a fence and the word barrier, I think, yeah, it's, in my opinion, it's sort of gone overboard. The 8-foot fence, is very visible from far below on the main road, and there's something very jarring about it. The benefit of having that continuous line across the top is a benefit, but I think the disadvantage it's outweighed by the huge scale of it and the sort of it's this sort of dangling, sort of perched effect with the land sloping away from it. I feel it's a very it's like almost like the Sykes-Picot agreement of dividing up the Ottoman Empire. It's very sort of not respectful of the barriers and of the topography. I certainly, the 4-foot fence, it is what it is. You need a fence, and it's not the ideal scenario, but that 8-foot part is to me is problematic.
I have a question. Given that, with or without the tall section of fencing that we're looking at the right-hand picture, is there no possibility, and again, this would be leaving the fence as it is or not, or taking it away, is there no possibility of doing serious screening with trees, with evergreens?
I was just going to say the same thing, Rob, that maybe a solution could be, or a compromise could be to, since you weren't able to acquire the property next door, to continue that natural line, to have the fence, which will be covered up by the evergreens shortly, create your own curvature following what I see in your lawn right now, and have that hedge, wrap gracefully into the wall, and then have room for a larger scale planting behind, next to the Japanese maple.
Right. And also, just as a possible program with your neighbors, I don't know how agreeable or how much cooperation there is, but on both sides of that wall to incorporate some buffer.
Mhm.
Are they agreeable, or?
When we had discussed planting, we had specifically talked about it in relation to what we would see, and asked them if they were agreeable to that, even though they really would only visualize the tips of the trees. They didn't express any desire to do anything on their side of the fence.
Oh, I see.
But I don't know if we sort of really specifically asked them, because
Part
we
of the
were sort
reason
of,
I ask that is not to be, a nosy neighbor even further removed, but just that the sight line from the road that Christopher Gao is talking about, and I think Christopher Boshiers as well, I think really it has more to do with what is planted on their side of that fence. That's why I was asking.
so it sounds like there's an appeal to soften the garishness of the site of the fence from the public road. And that would involve planting. I think Christopher Dow, when we were talking about our pergola in the past, you had kindly sent us some references for trumpet honeysuckle and Japanese wisteria. Or are we
American
talking about
wisteria.
which one?
American wisteria.
Okay. All right. American wisteria. Or are we, so we could incorporate that. We could include taller, these are green giants, so we could offer that.
I mean, just go to photograph number 2, if you could. That's where you see, because it's in the previous photograph, it just looked like one piece. There you see double trouble, that it's, really quite massive. That's the concern that I have. And to hide that is a big task. And I'm just wondering whether, yes, you want privacy, but is there a way of making it less visible? Almost, I don't know, almost like a lattice-like, that then the evergreen would give you the privacy. Instead of that, it almost looks like, it almost looks like, the border wall between the USA and Mexico in that area. It looks very, very intimidating and imposing. And your house is so beautiful, the pergola is so beautiful. And so, this is quite jarring.
I think that if you're able to acquire some mature plantings to do a layering, if you will, of low, medium to high, I think you could achieve the same thing without having to have the mass, which is visible from the road. I don't know if the other members are in agreement, but
Well, I am. I mean, I think it's absolutely. I mean, I think if you got some serious arborvitae or other things or American holly or something, but some specimens that are really quite sizable, assuming there's enough, topsoil or earth to work with, or that you can bring some up somehow. I don't know how accessible that area is.
We have lots of rock, we know that.
Yeah, but I think and is there the possibility of trying to cooperate with the neighbors, even if in the interest of keeping the fence as it is, but to buff it, would you be able to ask them, can we provide the screening and all the expense associated with that, but on your property, which is a sensitive question.
Right.
The other thought is it possible to reduce it to 6 foot instead of the 8 foot? Would that not give you the privacy that you require?
And then I don't want to landscaping, you could feel the privacy without having the height.
So it's really, Jasmine, you like the straight line.
Yes, I think that if we were to have this lower portion of the fence drop down, then it would create even more of an eye attention, so almost an eyesore, because you're disrupting the sort of horizontal or the the plane of view. So it's,
And this is a very bold question, but would it be a significant loss of privacy if the
as you can
tubing-
tell, I am struggling because I don't want to, I don't know if this is the right venue to be giving details about the activities of our neighbors. But yeah, we really would like some visual barrier.
Got it.
I guess, I mean, I have some concerns because obviously we have regulations in the village to avoid just having disagreements between neighbors result in high fences. And especially ones that other neighbors can see.
Right.
So I'm a little torn here. I mean, I feel for you that you put it up and you like how it looks, but I also have some concerns about its ability to really be camouflaged. And it's kind of a slippery slope. I don't want to encourage other neighbors to just throw up a high fence and beg for forgiveness later. I hate to be the jerk, but I feel a little like I'm not sure that there's justification here to, but that's also the discussion of the BZA. I mean, our job is really just the aesthetics and.
Well, one reason why I like, what Christopher Boshiers was talking about from the beginning is that you layer these things in, of different sizes, and then, you can have the fence or not. The screening will protect your sightlines from the neighbors, even in the absence of that fence. If it's a serious enough planting scheme, I think. And to the extent that if you were, let's just game this out. I mean, if you were to take out the part that requires the 8 to 10 feet sections, I think one of the concerns you were saying, Jasmine, is that you then would have this abrupt stopping of the 4-foot fence there. But if you brought the planting in, as I think Christopher was saying, in a little bit and then layered and then had some rather massive plantings below, wouldn't it give you essentially what it is you want, which is privacy?
And you bring the continuity from the low side over. Yeah.
So the idea is to generate a visual barrier through plantings and foliage.
Well, basically following your lead, because you've already started with these arborvitae, I think they are. And
I only know them as green giants, but I'm sure you know the Latin.
green dwarves, but they
wannabe giants.
You're in danger of being stepped on by a dwarf. But I mean, you've already started to do this, but that seems so sensible.
Okay. All right.
And I think it would be easier with the zoning issue. And I think, I mean, personally, I think my opinion would be the compromise would be to lower it to the 8 foot to the 6 foot, and then rely heavily on the landscaping to get that extra height that that is important and desired through the landscaping instead of this So from the road, from the road we would still see it. That's the problem, because we would be seeing not this side, we'd be seeing it from the other side. So that's not going to work, is it? It's still going to be very jarring, unless it was brought, the fence was brought a little bit nearer to your side and you plant it on the other side, but it's still being on your property.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the dilemma.
It might be more expensive, but what about a rock base at the bottom of the fence and kind of continue that rock wall that you already have there? I think it would definitely break up that kind of monolithic look of the tall fence.
Interesting idea.
I like that.
But you'd still need a BZA variance, I think, doesn't the rock?
Yes.
You still would. You
Yeah.
still would.
I mean, I
That's
think-
your option.
I think all of us are leaning towards the same thing, and is that the softer approaches that the greenscape, you're going to meet with a lot less heartache.
The only other comment I'd like to make is it's obviously further down the road, but it's about the pool. Probably check to see whether how much rock is underneath there, because it may involve a lot of excavating rock and drilling. So I would certainly check that out.
I think we were, because of that reason, we were inclined, and again, this is all in the future, if at all, for a raised, as opposed to if that is even approved by.
I have to say and Christopher Broshiers and I are both big fans of what we've been seeing a lot in Italy and other places in France, of sort of enormous cisterns, we basically raised pools with stone walls around them. And it would be a really practical solution, averting blasting or chipping.
Okay, great, thank you.
So I hope we've given you some ideas,
Yeah.
and then you can determine which action you want to take in advance, or whether to go to the BZA or whatever.
All right, great. I will relay these to the family architect.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.
Need to take the,
Yeah, let me give it back to you.
thank you so much.
Where is it? I'm just gonna cancel.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, the next is the Ulray application for paint color change and adding shutters at 6 Clubhouse Road. Is the applicant here?
Hi, we're here.
Hi, thank you for your patience.
Oh, no, not at all. It's been very interesting.
Oh, my goodness. I think yours is
Great
rather
time.
simple in comparison
Well,
to what you've sat through.
hopefully it's a break for everybody. Hopefully it's fairly straightforward. And
So
I'm
you
Scott Ulrey.
explain to us your plan and show us.
Sure. I'm Scott Ulrey, and this is Jeff Greenbaum, just to introduce ourselves. And
Hello, welcome.
thank you. Thanks. We moved in fairly recently, and yeah, the house is currently yellow. Let's see, did you want me to share the screen and show you the picture?
Thank you.
Okay. Just make sure I could do it. Where is it? Is it this one? Okay. Oh yeah, okay. Here we go. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. So here's the house, and yeah, it's currently yellow, and we thought it would just look nice just as white, simple white, and these are this is the shade of white here down below, and for the shutters are currently black, and we would keep those black. There's the shade right there, and just simple black and white house. And then you can see also from the picture, it seems that there are some shutters that look like they're missing. On the first floor there's sort of a bay that the house is curved right there, and there's shutters on the windows above on the second floor, but they're not there on the first floor. So we thought we would put the shutters there on the 3 windows. And that's basically the whole story.
Well, nothing is black and white in Tuxedo Park.
All right, touche.
As you probably realize. It sounds, the shutters, replacing the shutter sounds great. I'm not sure why, but a white house, we sort of, it's, I don't want to use the word predictable because it's not, but it's, were there any alternatives of white that you were thinking of, or was it you?
Well, we were just thinking white, you know, we didn't really consider any other alternatives. We just thought we'd keep it simple and straightforward. And
you know, we just thought it was such a beautiful house and such a beautiful design, and we just like the simplicity of it.
Certainly, certain one can improve on that, on the color that it is. I wonder what my colleagues are thinking about the white.
Well, there are whites and whites. I'm not sure I can really see. Is it a bright white or is it an off white of some kind?
It's called decorator white.
Mhm.
I provided, these are you know, samples that I ordered from the Benjamin Moore company, and so John has them for you to see the actual samples. It's always a little hard to see on a screen, but it's a pretty neutral white. It's not yellowish, it's not pinkish, it's
not a cold blue. It's
not bluish. It's pretty just, you know, a standard white.
Right is what I is jarring me a little bit. It seems to be a bright white, not so subtle. And I was just wondering if there was something more. Obviously, we want to bring something to the table because it is a beautiful house. If there was something, more interesting than just the plain bright white.
Well, and one reason why you might want to think about that is just that you've got this gorgeous pediment around the front entry, and at the moment that is white trim. I assume everything but the shutters, then the shutters will be black in what you're planning, and everything else will be the same white. Is that right? Or
that's exactly right. Yeah.
And I wonder if it doesn't get lost, some of that detailing. Oh, while it's on my mind, one other question. So the shutters are replaced on the main bay, correct? And then there's a tiny small bay just to the left of the pediment entrance.
Yes.
I can't get a sense of the scale.
So there is not enough room.
Right. That's what
yeah, there just is not enough room on that bay. They just would not fit. There is a window to the left, immediately to the left of the front door. That's not on the bay, it's flat. And you could put shutters there, they would fit there.
But it would almost be easier, I think what you're getting at is easier to leave that sort of program of windows alone.
That was our thought.
I agree. I think that's, but I just wanted to make sure that's what we were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was our thought. Well, yeah, you know, we really, yeah, you know, I hear what you're saying about the door and the detail there. You know, I guess you could paint it more of a gray and then keep the trim white, I guess would be a possibility. I mean, I think we just prefer the simplicity of the white. But if that's important to you, we could consider some other options.
Well, you know, there are so many gradations too. I mean, of both white and gray or silver that could allow for some differentiation and of the different pieces of the house. I think, am I right in thinking that there is a lateral going all the way across from the pediment that's also white, or it's a very small picture?
It's the
that's just an optical.
Shingles sort of flare out a little bit, but it's not white.
Okay.
What we've historically, for folks who've come before us for house color, we've tended to steer them towards something that reflects the natural surroundings and keeping things from being too bright and harsh against the landscape. And for a structure with so much mass, that may end up coming out very harsh compared to other structures around it. So to Rob's point, if you'd be open to looking at various shades of white that still would allow the structure to be crisp without being harsh or cold.
Sure. So you're saying other shades of white, not like a gray, but a different shade of white.
So it could be it could be in the brown family, it could be in the gray family, probably not blue because that is going to go cold.
And what we would usually do is we would approve the color change to a variation of white, subject to a review of an example of the color choices, maybe a group of them that you put on the house, and we come out and give an opinion. It doesn't seem like the shutters are an issue, and nor is painting the house an acceptable form of white but maybe you'd be open to some other variations that are softer with the landscape.
And I will say this, right now the existing yellow is quite bright and quite abrupt. So I think what you're doing with the shingles with the shutters is a great enhancement, and I don't think it can be too much brighter, even if you were to go with your bright designer white. I think it would be great to see if you were open to any whites that were a little bit less bright than that. But I think we're already starting from a place that is so bright and attention grabbing, to be fair to the applicants.
Well, it is bright as it is. It really is. We were thinking this was kind of toning it down but we're open. We're definitely open to it. I mean, we tried a couple of other shades of off-white sort of behind one of the shutters, so you can't see them, but it's there. And they had, it seemed like they were looking a little, they all had a little pinkishness or a little bluishness, and it didn't feel right in this kind of a colonial house. I mean, we just thought, you see a lot of these colonial houses that are just sort of white with the black shutters, but we're open to it, especially if I don't know if you have any specific suggestions you'd want us to try out.
Well, I will tell you one thing, if you go up the road, if you go up Tower Hill Road from where you are, right? And you go to Tower Hill Loop, so there is a house that has a huge long driveway with 2 food dogs on, if you're one part of the circle, on the back, there are a bunch of very superannuated arborvitae or cedars of some kind that are now no longer really screening it, right? And the back of the house is hard onto the road. And that's a stucco house with white trim. It's quite a gorgeous house with strange Saxon elements and things and falderall. But they had felt strongly that they wanted to freshen it up. And so it had a very kind of earth toned, old sheath of stucco, maybe even with some particulate in it. But they really wanted to paint that. And they wanted to go maybe cream and white, but a very bright cream. So it was going to register as white, basically the whole thing. And what this board kind of advised or requested was more of a program of offsetting so that the architectural details could jump off of the field. So what the kind of compromise that came about from that discussion was a very pale, kind of earthy stucco that reads as kind of a very rich, warm silver with bright white trim. So all the great details would sort of jump off of it. You might just have a look at that and see whether anything in that family even might be appealing to you, even if you lightened it a little bit more beyond what they have, you know, so closer to white.
Okay.
Sailcloth?
It's very similar to sailcloth, if not sailcloth. Yeah,
Right.
maybe it is sailcloth.
Sort of a sand.
Sand. Yeah.
So, I mean, so if you're open to it, I mean, I think maybe you could look a little into some whites and find some things you like, and we can approve white subject to a further approval and approve your shutters so you can move on, if that works for the board.
Sure.
Is that okay with the applicants?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's fine. And how should we, what would be the next step, to just show some other samples to John?
Yes, you just tell John when you're ready and you have something on the house, maybe some choices or what your first choice is and some other ideas. And we can do a quick site visit at your convenience in between meetings, so we don't hold you up.
Okay.
And you can move right along.
That'd be great. So go ahead and paint some onto the house so you could see it. Yeah.
We don't ask, we don't ask for much, just lemonade, cookies. You know.
Okay, well, absolutely, we could do that.
No, we are asking a lot, because what we want to do is point out your house and say, look, those guys got it. Look, they've nailed it. They've got the right color. And it's not a, you know, a Stepford Wives house. It's not, you know, predictable that you've gone that extra edge, you know, and got something beautiful. Yeah, but it's difficult. Yeah, it's white. It's a difficult thing. But I think, yeah, with the swatches, I think, you know, hopefully you'll find something you're happy with, and you'll be relieved that we went through this extra little hurdle and step to get to something that we're all happy with.
Right.
Appreciate
Oh.
you.
Okay, well,
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
And our main message is welcome.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. And so Christopher, you want to make a motion?
I say that we move to approve a white scheme with the caveat that samples are provided. What's their address? I don't have that in front of me.
6 Clubhouse Road extension.
Or 6 Clubhouse Road. I think that we all are comfortable with the chosen black, which I can't read on my screen, which is a Benmar color as well, you gentlemen said. The black.
Yeah, what's the color? What's your
The
black?
color, the black is, sorry, I can't read it either. Let's see. It's called Black Iron.
Black iron Benmar.
Yes.
As proposed and in the same materials as your other shutters, right?
Correct.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. Is there a second? Christopher Gauss seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We look forward to seeing,
Your White House.
yes.
Thanks a lot. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Okay. The mints, we can take that off. The mints, thank you very much. The Mincy application. Are the Mincy still here?
We had her here at one point.
There we go.
Hello?
I think they're muted. They got on.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
There
Sorry.
Oh, there you go.
Yes, this is Billy Mincy. I'm the homeowner and the architect, 50 Clubhouse Road. And we're proposing to resurface our motor court driveway. I'll start with what it looks like today. It's in a sad state of affairs. There are probably 6 layers of asphalt, and under that is probably the original dirt that the horses trotted through into the carriage house. Looking around, we looked for precedent in the park, and we found some on 29 Serpentine Road, a beautiful driveway with cobble and a regular Belgian block. And this is the material we're proposing for our driveway. This is just a historical reference of a fancy carriage house and Belgian block driveway. So we'll go to the drawing. So here's our house. Front door is here. We have planting beds on this side and planting beds on this side. And there are 3 components here. We have a swale that meets the road and the drive in the planting beds. We have the drive, and then we have a gravel area, which is a place to put pots and sort of just a place to take pressure off of all this driveway, because that's basically our front yard. And we have a large bluestone slab that we're going to use inset into the gravel for our step into the house. We are going to basically pour concrete base for the swale. That's the detail here. That meets it's flush with the road. And then the cobble is dry laid. So it's basically a built up sandwich of very heavy, large stones that are compacted, and then smaller stones, and then finer stones and sand. And then the cobbles are laid, the 4x4x4 cobbles are laid in this field. Now, ringing the driveway is a Belgian block soldier course. They're all standing up like soldiers, and they run all the way around the garden and the sand completely around to the garden and then to the gate here. Yeah, I mentioned the pebble area here. This is all gardening. Yeah.
What an incredible plan, Billy, and the materials are just so satisfying.
I agree.
I drove by today and I think it will be an incredible improvement. And I took a look at the material you left at the
Great, thank you.
village.
Our neighbors have been on us for years. But you know, the cobbler's children have no shoes.
But they have cobbles.
They have cobbles, that's right.
It looks great. Is there any way one can source old cobblestones instead of sort of new ones? Is that a possibility?
Well, we're sourcing what's available. Given the situation we're in now, what we can find is what we're able to get. And it is a natural material. Everyone needs to understand. But it's not antique or old stones. Just like these stones, you know, are not old stones.
But the patina on the one stone that you left did look pretty good, I have to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's granite. You know, it's a natural material. It'll weather and age and have a beautiful patina. Like, you know, I'm sure if you had a picture of this driveway when it was put in, probably, I think it was 5 years ago, it probably had, you know, it was there was a little bit of newness about it just because it was freshly laid, but the joints, you know, get darker. It gets its own patina. Like
Billy, I noticed that the cobblestone work on Serpentine incorporates a couple of variants in the granite with different tones, sort of the way one would want with tile, you know, hexagonal tile, say, you know, greenhouse or something. Is that something that you anticipate getting?
Yes, I think there'll be a variation in the stones.
Mm-hmm.
That's
So
what
it
I
doesn't
expect.
look too monochromatic, and
Mhm.
it's going to be so satisfying with your beautiful cedar shake roof, you know, and all the variety and sort of natural contours of that, and then this echoing it down below, similarly silver. What a great project.
That variation, yeah, is a great point because, yeah, to complement the old structure, the beautiful old carriage house, the ideal would be that it looks as if it was original to it instead of, you know, brand new. And obviously, it's not that you don't get that. It's that's the challenge, which is, you know, maybe possible, maybe not. But yeah, so if it's the more irregular or knocked around, as it were, the better, so that it looks it has more patina than brand spanking new. But yeah, no, it looks great. Thank you.
Unless anyone has anything else?
I just wanted to ask the soldiers, what the height was on those.
4 inches.
Okay.
Very good. Well, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Mincy's removing of asphalt, installing Belgian block cobblestones with the goal of making them look rustic and vintage and varied. Is there a second?
50 Clubhouse Road.
50 Clubhouse Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Billy.
Thank you.
Take care.
Good night.
Good night.
We have one late addition. Is the Santana applicant here?
There you go.
Here I am. Okay, hi. It's about, now I'm actually, I actually don't know how to share a screen. I've never done this before. I did submit everything to John. I don't know if John can help me out with this.
Can I say goodbye?
I'm sorry?
Oh.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay.
John, can you help Miss Santana share?
You can call it Nanaya. Nanaya is fine. It's about painting my house, and it's funny because I know Claudia Ginchard, and as we were talking and I kind of sat in, I see his carriage house, which actually belonged to this house, right out my window. And I was like, oh yes, I'm changing my color, hopefully. So, you know, anyway, I don't know how to share my screen, but basically it's the same color concept as his. John, are you there?
Yeah, I am. I'm trying to find your plans so I could share them.
Oh, thank you.
Just bear with me for a moment.
I'm just not savvy at all with this. But our house has, we bought it with this color scheme, and we lived here for almost 24 years. And it definitely needs a facelift. And yeah, there it is. That's my house. And it's actually like a putty pink color, and the trim is brown, which is my least favorite color. I would very much, well, we would very much, my husband and I, he couldn't be here tonight because he had this meeting in the city, but we would very much like to change it to, now I hate to say it because everybody seems to hate the color gray, but I would very much like to change it to a very subtle warm gray, and there it is, it's called Gray Tint. And then the Newburyport blue would be in all of the wood trim. It's not dark like that as it is on that swatch. I did have my painter paint a bit of it today. That's it there, kind of, even though it is against the original brown background, so it doesn't quite look as great. Can we possibly go to the picture? Yes, up the other one. That one, perfect. So if you see on the top portion there, that is I know the pictures are kind of sideways, but the top is the gray against again, that kind of pink beige Oh, thank you, John. Against the pink putty, which makes it look kind of blue, but it actually is a very soft, light, kind of like a dovey kind of gray. And the blue is, it doesn't look as it does here because it's against this back, the dark brown trim in the house. It's a big project. It's huge. And I
Nanaya,
haven't.
can you go back up one more, or John, maybe one more. What is Hail Navy?
Hail Navy. Oh no, I just no. Those are just extra colors that came on the, on the swatch sheet. No, it's just the new berry port blue and the gray tint. That's it. Those two side by side there. And I actually, if you guys are welcome to come in, and it's in the back of the house. I didn't want to do this on the front of the house because it would be in everybody's view as they drive by. So I thought it would be best to do it in the back of the house. And you guys are more than welcome to come and view it if you like. But we've been thinking about actually this project for a very, very, very long time. And the winters have been very harsh and the house is just in desperate need of a change with the stucco and the brown, which is falling apart.
Dramatic. I mean, it could be absolutely amazing, or it could not. It's quite. So I think yeah, I definitely want to see it in situ because given the photograph here, I'm sort of frightened. It doesn't look that great. So I definitely want to see it because it's a big change.
And just to be clear, the thing that's frightening, that would be frightening to anyone, is not the revised field, the gray, silver gray field, Nanaya. That's quite lovely. The one to the right.
Pardon?
So gray tint.
Yeah, great.
That would be on the stucco. All of the stucco would be
Correct.
gray tint.
And what I was trying to say is that that's not frightening to anyone.
No, it's
the blue.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say that the blue that but you see the difference in the blue with the paper swatch and the actual color? It varies greatly. I mean, it's sort of not even kind of like the same paint if you think about it. I think what the problem is that it is because it's against that dark brown background. And my painter said, it's gonna have, first of all, they're taking all that brown off, right? They're just going to power wash it, and then they're going to, I like to call it shave it, but whatever they do anyway. And then he's going to prime it. So it's going to be primed. So I don't think it's going to be as aggressive as it looks right now. But I mean, that's all I can give you right now. When I did see it against the brown, I was like, it's not exactly what I had in mind, but my painter said it's because it is on that background that it looks so very bold and strong.
Certainly what I'd recommend is that you do a section, do exactly what you were saying, sand it or wash
Sand
it.
it, that's it, yes.
Prime it, and then apply the paint. So you'll see, so you'll be confident, what you see is what you'll get, as opposed to a big, expensive surprise.
Yeah, because that is what it is, actually.
I would like to come see it and see a sample. And since we need to wait to vote anyway, we have a little time, and we want to make sure you're happy with your colors.
Right, I am. I want to be happy with the colors. The only issue is that I am in a bit of a time crunch because they kind of want to start in 2 weeks, and they're doing painting in the interior of the house, and it's the same people, and he has like a window open, and he was like, well, I could definitely start you by mid-May.
If there's a time crunch, one suggestion would be to think about alternatives now that you could be excited about as well, so that we can view multiple different things in situ and get a quick vote in a way that kind of overlaps with the painter's schedule.
So how do I do that? I mean, it's because you guys meet only every 2 weeks or so, no? Once a month or something?
So I guess the point I was trying to make is if time is of the essence,
Mm.
and what I think we're hearing is that the blue, at least on a computer screen, does not look, convincing now. One way of accelerating the whole process is to have multiple options that you are happy with, that you would put forward, that we could see painted.
In person, you mean?
Right, but not to literally paint everyone into a corner with one choice.
No, I understand. I understand.
So I think the key thing here is Rob's points, very, very right, spot on. That I think for you, as well as for us, to have a large enough area that is prepared, prepped, primed, and 2 coats or whatever the painter is suggesting, so that you are seeing an actual finished product and we are seeing a finished product as well.
Got it. Okay, I can.
You should have a couple of choices,
He did paint another one, and I was like, no, because it was actually very close to the gray, which again doesn't really look like the gray. But
They never do.
Pardon?
They never do.
Well, it is because I think it is because of the background that they're both painted on. But that's fine. I could absolutely do that. I could absolutely talk to him tomorrow, and we could definitely, or he can definitely prime and sand a bit of, not as if I don't have a lot of this ground to be sanded. So he can maybe do some areas, and then we can go from there. And then do I contact John when
Yes, please.
when it's all done, and then we get you guys over and
Yep.
all that?
That'll work.
I could do that. I will do
Thank
that.
you.
I'm on it. Thank you so much for seeing me, by the way, because I know that I was a late entrance.
Well, we want you to be happy and we want to get you going quick. So
Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
We do too. Thanks, Nanai.
Okay, thank you all. Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
okay, so the last thing we have is the minutes from the last meeting that Christopher Gao chaired. And shall we make a motion to approve those minutes? I'll make a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. And is there a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, baby. Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Thank you all.
Thank
Have a
you.
good evening.
One
Good night.
question
Yes.
for everybody. The mayor sent out an email
Oh, on the bollards, yeah.
saying there's a vacancy on the bar. Was that a mistake, or is anyone retiring? Do we know?
I'm not aware.
Am I being thrown off island?
Or maybe they're
Christopher,
adding.
there is a vacancy on the BZA. I don't know if that was a typo or if you misread it. There is a
I think he
vacancy
said
on
the
the
bar.
board.
I think he said the bar and the BZA, but
He said all
think it was
boards. There's
a misunderstanding.
Just sleep.
vacancies on every board.
Mhm.
I guess we'll see what the mayor has in mind in due course.
Very
In
good.
due course, yeah.
Okay,
Yes, he did ask for our advice, however. I'm glad you raised it. If you see a recent email about the bollard caps for the
The new guardhouse, but there wasn't a lot of context. Like there were just these things thrown at us. I had no sense of where they're going or.
I think they're in front of the booth.
Yeah.
The approved plan has 3 bollards in front of the booth and 3 behind the booth, kind
Did
of
he
in a triangle formation.
Talked
Did
about
Did
stones
he
and all sorts of
include the plans so we could see that? I had no sense of.
There was no plans approved in the front facade of the structure.
Oh,
No
I thought
planting.
we'd gone through this before with, and we'd sort of point
I mean,
that
this is
the pawn-shaped bollards were the ones that we liked when we went through this about a year.
We did make some suggestions initially, so I'm not quite sure what became of those, but I'll talk to John and, we can see how we can,
Put it in context for us.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you all.